box, and this box. This box is the presets or the menus. This next one here is all your static. So this is all your electric controls, and these are your air controls, okay? So the factory settings are, this top one here is flat parts that don't have any geometry, don't have a lot of nooks and crannies. So just flat, easy parts. This next one here that is the same shape as it, but has 2x on it, or 2 times, that is called recoat setting. So anytime we're putting a coat thing that has corners or weldments or 90-degree areas, you want to use corners. So like this fence here, you want to do the whole thing on the corner setting so you can get each one of those welds. Okay. So, and then this fourth one here is a double click setting. So basically what that means is if I'm on flats, I can hold it down and I'm still on flats. So I hold the trigger down and I'm on flats. However, if I hit the trigger, like double click it and hold the second click in, it switches over to your double click. So click, click, now you're on the double click setting. Okay? So, I am going to get my settings close to where I like them. So just bear with me. I'm putting in a custom setting right now. There, you're reading this outside dial, and that's the percentage of the powder that's coming out of the gun from 0 to 100%. So right now it's at 70. On flats, I'm going to turn that back to 60. And then this middle button here, this button here is total air being produced, and that's in cubic meters per hour. So I like to keep this number here exactly the same on every single menu. So I'm going to go through and do that now. So on 2 coats, I'm going to set it at 4.0. So to set it in, you just hold it in and flash, 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 and then one long flash, and that sets it in. So I'll go to corner, select our total air, turn that up to 4.0, hold it in, flash, 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 like so. Make sure our flat's on 4.0, okay? And then our flat powder, I want on 60, so I'll hold that in. Corners and recoats, I want to have the total powder down a little bit further than flats, because think about it. If you're spraying a flat piece of sheet metal, you can just kind of sit back and just hose it on, right? Whereas the gun's going to automatically adjust itself as per the relationship and distance from the ground. So the steeper the slope, the closer your gun has to get to the part for it to start adjusting itself. Whereas the more shallow the slope, the further back from a grounded part, your gun will start adjusting itself. So all that being said, the only setting that's on this steep slope is the flats. So I'm going to match that here for flat. Every other menu, so recoat and corner, those are both going to be on the middle one, or I'm sorry, the shallow. And then if you guys do get into custom settings, I would just set the slope on shallow on every single one. Okay? So, the only thing we have to set to match here is the powder settings. So I'm going to go powder up to 60, total air up to 4, hold that in. So now this one and this one are identical. So remember, the reason why I did that is most often you guys are going to be spraying on corners. So you'll be spraying on corners, and then you go, okay, I got a flat portion, I can double click, and now go to flats. See how that changed back down to here? Towards the filters. Because any powder that misses here could potentially pick up parts down the road, right? And then also you want to work from high to low. But if your part has a lot of corners, you want to do all the corners first. So working from this direction that way, get all the corners, all the corners, all the corners, all the corners, and then come back and then get the rest of the part. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that being said, these are easy parts. So you're just going to want to pull the trigger off the part. You don't want to point your gun at the part and pull the trigger. So pull the trigger off the part and then start powder coating. Do the whole thing this way or this way, it doesn't matter. Whatever initial stroke is fine. But then always go back and double the speed that you did those initial strokes. You want to come back and do what's called feathering. So let me demonstrate on the front side of this part, then I'll let you guys drive it out. So we've got flat, pull the trigger off the part. Is you take a flashlight and you shine it on the part. So I got my flashlight here. Shine it on the part. If I can see that metal coming through the powder, it's light, right? So if I notice any light parts, I can just take the gun and fill in my light parts. If as soon as I can't see that metal through the powder, it's perfect, right? When it's too heavy, it'll start to look like that. Blotchy and pinholy. That's called back ionization, what you're seeing there. So if you just have a little area on your part like that, sometimes you're able to just make sure all the spit's out of your mouth, but just blow a little bit off and it should flow out. But if your whole part looks like that, just blow it off and start over again. The worst thing you want to do is put a bad part in the oven and bake it on, because then you have to blast it off to fix it, right? You want to find all your mistakes in here before you bake the powder on. Because once you bake the powder on, it adds a whole lot more labor to get that powder back off to restart, okay? Every screw up can be fixed in this booth. The worst thing you're going to have to do is blow the entire part off and put another $3 worth of powder on the part. That's a hell of a lot better than spending 3 or 4 hours fixing that part. Okay?
When you say blow it off, you mean just make compressor and blow it off?
Yep. Yeah, so if say I accidentally sprayed this black and somebody comes up, oh, that's supposed to be red. Blow it off now and redo it red. Okay? Okay, so you guys can go ahead and grab the gun and do the back.
Do the big one. I'll do the back part.
Remember how you're supposed to do it, Zeke? All the corners first.
Well, this is flat piece considered.
Oh, yeah.
Then start fans, and then start burner. So what happens now, once you hit start burner, first thing you're going to hear is you're going to hear this combustion fan turn on. So once you hear the combustion fan turn on, we've got 30 seconds of purge time. Purge in an oven just means that all the fans are on. So you're exhausting any potential combustion gases that might still be in the burner. it's making the oven safe to light. So after 30 seconds, you'll hear it light, and you'll also see this pilot and flame light illuminate. So we'll watch that happen. So we hear it light, we got pilot, we got flame. Now it's checking all the safeties on the gas train here. Once all the safeties are satisfied on the gas train, this main light will illuminate. So that is the indication that now the temperature controller on the front of the oven has now taken over. So what that temperature controller is saying is our set point's 375, we're only at 140 degrees. I'll show you how to reset that. 375 is not the temperature we want right now. But what this is saying is that it's telling this valve right here to open up and give it more gas. That's how it heats up. So once it gets up to around the right temperature, you'll start to see this gas valve back off, back off, back off, back off, and it'll go almost all the way closed, and it'll just go into cruise control to maintain 400 degrees. So to set the temperature, we're not going to cure this at 375, we want to cure it at 400 degrees. So we just dial the temperature up to 400, and then hit, wait, I don't know what's going on here. Bear with me. So I'll go back up. So we go up to 400 degrees, and then while it's still flashing, it's not set in. You have to hit enter here, and now our temperature is set in at 400 degrees. Okay. So we've got a timer here. The way this timer works is right now I've got a set point set at 0.3 minutes. So if we just go from timer off to alarm, we'll just count down from 0.3 minutes. And then after that time's up, the alarm will sound, but nothing will happen to the oven. It's just an egg timer. It's just saying, hey, time's up. So we can silence that alarm, pull our parts out, and put our next parts back in. So let's set this for our cure time, which is 40 minutes. The way we set that is we can scroll through the digits with this yellow button. See how it's scrolling through there? So to set it for 40 minutes, we want to set it for 40.0. So we'll bring that 3 down to 0, go over, and bring that digit up to 4. So now it's 40.0. And then to set it in, you hit mode. So now we're counting down from our 40-minute cure time. Okay? So, burner shutdown mode, if we were to turn it to burner shutdown mode, the way that works is we will count down from our set point. So after 40 minutes, the alarm will sound, the burners will shut off, but then the fans will stay on for 30 minutes. And then after 30 minutes, the fans will shut off. So that's an automatic shutdown mode for the oven. I would personally not use that for an end of the day shutdown. I would use that, say, I put a batch in and I'm going to run up to get a sandwich at lunchtime or run an errand or something. I would put it in burner shutdown mode, so that way if I took longer than 40 minutes on my errand, at least the oven's going to shut down and my part's going to start cooling down, and it has no chance of over baking. Okay? But at the end of the day, what I would do is I would just stop the burner, pull my parts out, leave the doors open, and then just watch this temperature. We don't want to turn the fans off until this temperature is at or below 200 degrees. Okay? So cut off the burner, open the doors, pull my parts out, keep the doors open, keep the fans running, clean up the shop, get all my stuff ready, then come over here, make sure the temperature is below 200 degrees, verify it's 200 degrees, then stop fans, control power off. Okay? So that's the basic operation of the oven. Does that all make sense? Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So what I'll do here is I'm going to set, this is our timer relay for the burner shutdown. So I've got to set this for 30 minutes. The way this works is this has a range here. It's a tiny little tiny number. I'm going to set the range for 1 hour, 1H. So I'll turn that till it says 1H. And now I want to set it for 30 minutes. 30 minutes is 50% or 0.5 of 1 hour. So I'll then set 0.5 on the clock face. Okay? Now this one here is our purge timer. That's what this light's for. The way this works is I'm going to set it at a range of 10 minutes, so 10 M. And then right now, remember when I hit start burner, we've already got 30 seconds of purge built into the burner already, okay? But if an inspector or somebody comes in here and says, hey, local code requires this oven to purge for say 5 minutes, then we would need to adjust this timer. So if your inspector says 5 minutes of purge, we've already got it set for a range of 10 minutes. Now it's just 50% of 10 minutes. And now when you hit start burner, your oven won't light for 5 minutes. Okay? That all being said, I'm going to keep that turned all the way down. Because we've already got 30 seconds and that's sufficient in most areas of the country. Okay? So what I'll do is I'll put a little P on this timer so you remember that's the purge timer. Trying to get it right at 40.0 because I'm anal.
Trying to get the gas pump to go $30 exactly.
Ah, screw it. Come on.
Oh.
So the other stuff that's in this control panel, this thing I'm messing with is the speed drive for the exhaust. I've got that set at 40 Hertz, so you'll never have to mess with that. This temperature right here is the temperature, it's called the discharge temperature. There's a probe on the top of that burner that is taking the temperature of the heat that's going into the ductwork of the oven. So that's that temperature, and then this is our safety. If it ever reaches 650 or above, it'll alarm out. Okay? Shouldn't get anywhere near that temperature. This burner will have a really hard time getting to 650. But everything else in here is pretty standard fare for any electrician to understand. If you follow me here on the other side of the burner, there's a bearing block right here. And then there's one on the opposing side, but this one's easier to see. There's a grease nipple right here. Once a week, you'll want to grease both of these bearings, so on this side and the other side. And I would suggest getting to the one on this side by going up and over. So that way, when you're up there, you can inspect that belt. Just take a look at the belt, make sure she's not wearing on the inside or the outside. If it is starting to wear on the inside or outside, that's probably a good indication that one of your pulleys has shifted. So you might have to realign the pulleys and readjust the tension on the belt. Okay? So once a week, grease both bearings, check the belt, and then finally, this is a UV sensor. I can't take it out right now because the oven will go into alarm. But you just unscrew it from right there and look at the face of it. It's just a glass face. So just make sure that glass face is good and clean. If it needs to be cleaned off, just use a clean dry rag, a clean dry Q-tip, compressed air. Just don't use solvent, don't use water. This guy's job is to see a flame. If it can't see a flame and it wants to see a flame, it'll send your oven into alarm. So make sure that's good and clean and you can see through it. So check that once a week. So once a week, clean the UV sensor, grease both bearings, check that belt. Okay? And then once a month, we want to service the exhaust fan. That's our little guy here. Same thing. Take the cover off, grease both of these bearings, and then inspect that belt, make sure she's not wearing. If it is wearing, one of the pulleys may have shifted. Now, for the first couple days, I want you to keep this cover off just to keep an eye on this. If a pulley on this is gonna shift or something haywire is gonna happen, it's gonna happen in the first day or two. So just keep a close eye on this for a couple days. If it's still working the same after, what is today? By Monday, if it's still A-okay, just go ahead and throw the cover back on. And then you won't have to take it off for a month. But once a month, you want to service this guy here, okay? So change filters. The blanket that you're looking at there, you want to change about once a week. Now this is based on spraying for 35, 40 hours a week. So if you're only going to be spraying 20 hours a week, obviously, adjust for that. Blankets last once a week. The pockets back behind it will last once every 4 to 6 weeks. And then the final filters on the back will last anywhere between 6 months to a year. Okay? You know that the finals are going bad, which are the filters on the back, when your motor overload in here starts tripping. So it'll be running, and then all of a sudden your motor will shut off. And let me show you, in case you guys don't know what a motor overload is.
The black kind.
This guy here, if it starts drawing too many amps, this thing will trip out, and this little white thing right there will go away. So you won't be able to see that white thing, and you'll have to reset it to get your motor to start again. Once that starts happening, you know that's a good indication that you need to switch your final filters, okay? But like I said, those should last you every bit of 6 months to a year. Okay, turn the unit off, then unplug all your quick disconnects here. Pull the pump up and off. Unscrew your powder hose from the pump. Then take your insert out so you have an insert in the pump. Take your pickup tube out, like so. And you just set that aside and let it fall over. This comes out in case you need the extra clearance. Pull the powder out. You probably want to have some zip ties over here. I've got one in, oh shit. I've got one in my bag. And pull that out. Then unscrew your nozzle nut. And then just push out the front end. So you're left with those 3 pieces. And now you just blow off and blow out anything that powder touched or went through. So you can start anywhere. Actually, let me turn on the booth. Just hit start fans. You guys probably want to get an air dryer. The best air dryer to get, the cheapest thing to get, is a desiccant dryer. Get it sized for about 10 CFM at least. All it is a can of that silica gel beads. That's the best way to do it. That way you can hang it on the wall and run your air through it. idiot proof. You can only hook them up one way. That's it, you're ready to go in.
Are you brave enough to touch it?
I'm not good. That's a good,
I would just let them sit overnight.
I guess maybe we can use like a tool to pull it out. We need to.